Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Hi and Shalom Aleichem, welcome back. Today's daf is Kesubos Chav Daled. We are on Chav Gimel Amud Beis, 3 lines from the bottom, right after the Mishnah. So throughout our parak, we had many instances of the halacha of Pesha Asar Pesha Hitter, which essentially means like this. Suppose I step up to Bez and I say, look, this and this happened, but let me explain it. This used to be your field, I purchased it from you. I used to be an Ishes Ish, now I'm divorced. Pesha Asar, the same expression, the same person, the same mouth, so to speak, which initiated the concern to begin with, explained itself and covered up. So that's called Pesha Asar Pesha Hitter, in which case we have to take it all or leave it all. The assumption is, there was no retraction. I wasn't going back on my words. I was simply explaining. This is what I intended to say to begin with. I was an Ishes Ish and I got divorced. I was taken captive, but I remained tahor. This used to be your father's field. However, I purchased it from him. It's either the Beis Din takes the entire package, the entire statement from beginning to end, the initiation with its explanation, or we ignore the entire thing. But why do we need 4 separate examples of Pesha Asar Pesha Hitter in this parak? We had case number 1. Rabbi Yehuda spoke about Shimon approaching Ruvain. Look, this field used to be your father's. I purchased it from him. We had the case of the Edom who acknowledge this is our signatures, but we were forced to do it. We had a case where an Isha steps up and says, I used to be married, but now I'm divorced. We had a case where she says, look, I was taken into captivity, but I remained tahor. Why do we need 4 examples of the same concept? Each one contains a chiddush. Why do we need all 4 cases? Each one is needed. If only from the first case. This used to be your father's field, and I purchased it from him. Perhaps over there we say, you must have meant to say this all along. You weren't just retracting. When you acknowledged, this is your father's field, you had a mind to add to that and say, I purchased it, but otherwise you're going to lose the field. There's monetary interest there. So of course, we assume this is what you had in mind to begin with. It wasn't a retraction. You weren't doing a chazara. This is what you meant when you uttered that first syllable. You were going to explain it to us. Therefore, it's Pesha Asar. But in the case of the Edom, this is our signatures. They have no monetary issues. They're not risking any money. Perhaps in that case, you'll never know. Maybe they changed their mind. They started by saying, look, this is our signature. Then they had a change of heart. Let's undo it. But this and that. Perhaps let's treat it as a possible retraction, as a chazar. They're going back on their words and not treat it as a pesha asar pesha hitter, as one continuum. Perhaps we can't apply the concept there. Yes, we do. If only the case of the Edom, mishum de la'alma. Sure, I have no reason to suspect that they're making things up and they're changing and they're retracting because it's not pertaining to themselves. They have no personal interest. But in the case where it's pertaining to his own personal interest, the case of the Sada, maybe suddenly he was all concerned that he's going to lose his field, so he decided to add to his statement. Well, I bought it from him. So perhaps it's not considered one continuous statement. It was a retraction there. Don't treat it as a pesha asar pesha hitter, one continuous statement. There's a chiddush there that it works. So perhaps since it's la nafshei, we won't allow it. We do. The assumption is this is what you intended to say to begin with. If only from those 2 cases, I would say mishum namamayna, since it only pertains to monetary issues, we can be lenient and hope for the best. But when it comes to a married woman who's claiming she was divorced, it pertains to Isra and a very strict type of Isra. Perhaps you can't apply this concept and you can't believe her, and that's why we need that as well. Why I have the 4th case. I was taken captive and I remained tar. What's the chiddush there? Mishum de kaboyla misni, because we wanted to add a second halacha in the Mishnah of Imishanisas Bo Edom. Suppose She claims she was taken captive and remained toher. We gave her the heter to marry a kohen, and then she marries, or she got the heter, and Edom come and tell us about the story, that she was taken into captivity. Too late. She already pocketed the heter, she goes home. However, is it like Teitzi? She doesn't have to leave her husband, she doesn't have to lose the heter. That's an added chiddush featured in that case. And that's why we present that case as well. Well, Hanicha Lamanda Amar, this works according to Lamanda Masna al Seifa, the one who applied the halach of the late coming Edom to this case of the captured women. Elo Lamanda Masna al Reisha, but the other way of learning the Mishnah, this was discussed yesterday, the one who applied the halacha of the Edom coming now to the first case as well, to the case of the Isha, who was an Isha's Ish, and claimed she was divorced, and later on the Edom came. So Michael and Meimar, once it can apply to that case, why do we even need the other case of the Shivuya? The answer is Mishum the Kabayla Misnishtei Noshim Shenishvu. Because that was going to lead us on to the next Mishnah of the two women who were taken captive, and we learn all kinds of halachas there. Shtei Noshim Shenishvu Lomali, what's the chiddush there? Maudateva, perhaps I would think. Neichash Legoimlan. There is a chiddush in that Mishnah. Rachel is testifying in support of Leah in support of Rachel. Perhaps we should be chayshish. We should suspect that there is a deal going on between them. You'll support me, I'll support you. Kamashwan, the chiddush is no. We don't suspect that there was a deal. We take it as fact. Why do we need to discuss the second mission of the two men speaking about their kahuna status? What's the point there? Mishum the Kabayl Misni Plukta Rabbi Rabbanon. Why discuss that halacha, which is pretty much a replication of the previous mission of the Nashim Shenishpu? We learn that 1/8 is Neman, because there's a whole discussion in that Mishnah Machlekes between Rabbi Yehuda, who actually holds that 1/8 does not accomplish anything regarding the status of a kohen, and the Rabbanon who disagrees. That's the point of presenting another case in another Mishnah. Tana Rabbanon. On the topic of Rabbi Yehuda Rabbanon, here comes a machlekes regarding a related case. Ani kohen v'chavri kohen. We have Reuven and Shimon. We're unsure whether they're kehanim. Reuven steps up and says, look, I'm a kohen and so is my friend. Neman la'achila betruma, that allows Shimon to eat truma. Ve'eno neman la'asiyah isha, but it's not enough to allow Shimon to marry an isha with proper lineage. We don't really know who Shimon is. So when it comes to yichus, we have to have confirmation, we have to have clarity. 1/8 is not enough. Ad sheyu gimel. This only works if we have 3 kehanim standing here, and we have 2 edim per person. Shnayim me'iden al zeh. So we're going to have 3 kehanim, 3 individuals, Reuven, Shimon, and Levi. Reuven and Shimon will testify regarding Levi. Ushnayim me'iden al zeh, and Shimon and Levi will testify regarding Reuven, and Reuven and Levi regarding Shimon. So we have 2 per person. That will be enough to accomplish this feat, to upgrade his status regarding marrying an isha miyucheses. But regarding truma, 1/8 is enough. Rabbi Yehuda no. Af einoi neman lachila betruma. Even when it comes to feeding him truma, 1/8 is not enough. Unless you have 3 edim, as we explained, which will allow us to have 2 per person. Shnayim eden azeh, 2 edim testifying regarding this kohen's status. Vishnayim eden azeh, and another 2 testifying regarding the other person's status. According to Rabbi Yehuda, 1/8 is not enough. And the Gemara at this point figures the reason why, according to Rabbi Yehuda, we don't trust him is because we're concerned that in this type of case, where everybody's backing each other up, perhaps there's a deal amongst them. You help me, I'll help you. You'll scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. So that's called goimlin. There's a reciprocatory system going on here. And that's Rabbi Yehuda's concern. Whereas the Rabbanan apparently are not concerned about that eventuality. Do you mean to say that Rabbi Yehuda is the one concerned about deals? But the Rabbanan are not concerned? Is that what you mean to say? We have a Mishnah where they seem to say the other way around. The Rabbanan are the ones concerned, the Rabbi Yehuda is not. The Snan, Achamor, and the donkey drivers who came and sold their grains in town. Shenichnas Solir, they come into town. Va'amar echad mehem and Reuven. One of the donkey drivers says, look, don't buy mine. Mine is of inferior quality. Go to my friends. Shali chadash, my grain is relatively fresh, not good enough for grinding. V'shel chavri yashan, my colleague over here, he's got aged grain, all dried, perfect for grinding. So his is better than mine. Shalieni masukin. Another thing I want to tell you, mine is not really ready for eating. It's still tevel, the truma is still in there. Don't buy mine. It's not kosher. V'shel chavri masukin, my friends, is perfect for consumption. He's not believed, Rashi says, because he's an Amaretz. Amaretz does not have an emunus regarding Truma and Maser. And the Chiddush is, even though he's putting himself down and praising his friend, he's not an emun. Why? Rashi explains, because perhaps it's a deal between them. I'll put myself down and prop you up. The next town, you'll do the same for me. Rabbi Daimer Nehman, he is believed. Rabbi Yehuda is not concerned about goyimlin, about deals. Amar Vada Bar Ava, Amar Rav, you have to switch things around. You have to switch the names around. Mechlefes Hashita. The names in that brisa that we had before must be switched around, which will put it in line with this Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda is not concerned about deals, the Chacham are concerned. Amar Abaye, Amar Leilu Meisefach, you don't have to switch anything around, leave it as is. You had a kasha. When it came to feeding a kohen truma, Rabbi Yehuda was not going to believe them. We're afraid of deals when it comes to this questionable produce, which is really called Demai. Demai. What is this? We're not sure whether it's Tevel, whether or not. Anything purchased from Amaretz is of questionable status regarding its Truma and Maser. Here it's different. But Demai Hikilu. When it comes to a question regarding Demai, Chachamim were lenient. You know why? Roiv Amei Aretz Ma'asr Hein. Chances are, fact is, the majority of Amaretz do take off Trumas and Maser. It's only a Chumrah that we're concerned about, and therefore, once you have even one person testifying, even if it's his fellow donkey driver, that's okay. So there's a special leniency. But when it comes to a serious halachis, it comes to eating truma, there, Rabbi Yehuda is concerned about wheeling and dealing. So that pretty much puts us at ease regarding the apparent contradiction within Rabbi Yehuda. Right? In the Brisa, Rabbi Yehuda said, they're not believed. Over here they are believed. Here it's Demai. We take an easy route. Amar Rav, I don't understand. You've answered only half the question. The Rabbi Yehuda kasha. So you had a kasha between the two Rabbi Yehudas, which you answered. Fine. The Rabbanan like kasha. What about the two Rabbanans? You had a steer there as well, which you're ignoring, so to speak. You're not addressing that apparent contradiction. Fine. Rabbi Yehuda was answered. When it comes to Truma, we're Machmer. When it comes to Dmai, we're Mekel. When it comes to the Rabbanan, you haven't really addressed the stira. In the first Bryce, the Rabbanan say, we're not concerned about wheeling and dealing. And here we say we are concerned. Allah says, Rav, I'll answer both questions. The Rabbi Yehuda, like Kasha, regarding the two Rabbi Yehudas, will answer as we said, Kedushanina, as we already answered. Truma is more Chamer than Dmai, as we explained. The Rabbanan like Kasha. I'll try to answer the apparent contradiction between the two Rabbanans as follows. Typically, Rabbanan are not concerned about goimlin, about wheeling and dealing. You say it, we believe it. If so, why by the donkey drivers don't we believe him when he says, look, mine is inferior, my friend is good, mine is not kosher, my friend is kosher. Why don't we believe him? The Rabbanan like Kash. We're going to answer the two Rabbanans like this. Because there's some indication here that he is cheating us. He's claiming that his grain is not really ready for sale. Right? That's what he's claiming. It's chadash, it's this, it's that. I'm taking it, and storing it in the meantime. I'm not really selling it. It's not for sale. But the facts on the ground indicate otherwise. The facts on the ground are contradictory to his claim. And that makes us question the validity of his claims. and doesn't allow us to trust him. Makes us suspect that there's some deal going on. As Rabbi Bechama tells us somewhere else, in a different halacha, which we're going to see soon. So what does he say? We're speaking that he has his, his utensils, his tools, his measuring cup, things that he uses to sell his produce. They're right there in his hands, which make it obvious that he's engaged in selling. He's open for business. So over there, it's coming up soon that we're talking about there's some tools. Here as well, when it comes to this grain dealer, Hachanavi was speaking that the klei ha'umnus are right there. So Rav Chama tells us elsewhere that we're speaking klei umnus biyad. Here as well, we're speaking that the klei umnus are right there. You see, he has the measuring cups, he has the scale. He's ready for business. So why are you claiming that your stuff is not sellable? It's not ready for it to be sold. You're just hiding the fact that you're really selling your stuff as well, but you're pretending at this point because you want to negate yourself and prop up your friend, which lends legitimacy to your story. It looks good for you. You're hoping that this will lead us to trust you, that your friend's stuff is good. But really, it's all a farce. It's all a joke. It's all a deal. Because in the next town over, your friend will flip things around. He'll claim his stuff is no good and your stuff is good. So the evidence of the klei umnus undoes his ne'emanus. And that's what the Rabbanan say. In this case, we don't believe. Typically, we believe the fellows walking together. We're not concerned about dealing. But in this case, we are. Where do we have this halacha Rav Chama about the klei umnus? Ahadas nan on the following Mishnah. So again, we're speaking about a concern about an Amaretz. Since he's not learned, he might ruin things. He might make things tamei. So we have a kader, a fellow who's a chaver, who's a learned fellow, reliable fellow, person who keeps his things tar, and he happens to be a potter, selling pots. Sheniach k'dei roisef. So he left over his pots for a moment, and he went down to take a drink. And there were people milling around. What is the status of his merchandise? Ha'primeus tahiris, the merchandise which are facing the seller, where the seller would stand, where people are not meant to be touching. Those are tahiris presumed to remain tahir. To have remained tahir, they keep their status. Nobody tinkered with them. We're not concerned about an amaretz getting involved there. But the outer ones, near the crowd, is presumed to be tamei, concerned that an amaretz may have touched it. So that's one halacha, one mishnah. Vatani, we have another brisa. Elu tmeis. All the pots are tamei. Amar Rabbi Bar Chama, Amar Rachama Bar Ukva b'sheklei umnusa biyadei. We're speaking that the merchant has his selling utensils, whatever he uses. In this case, it would be maybe a scale, whatever he uses to show that he's open for business. So people see that he's open for business. Everybody's touching. Everybody's sampling his pots because they know his merchandise is up for sale. So whether it's these or those, they're all presumed to be tamei because everybody's touching. Vatani, we have another brisa. Everything is tar. What's that talking about? We're speaking that this merchant does not show that he's open for business. He doesn't have the klei umnus. His register, his whatever he uses to sell, it's not there. So everybody knows, hands off. And everything's presumed to be tar. So how do we explain the other Mishnah, which differentiates between aprimeis, which are tahiris, the inner ones are tar, out of reach, v'chatenes tmeis, the ones that are outside, within reach of the crowds, are tamei. What's the case? If he's open for business, everything is up for sale, and everything is being tinkered with. If he's closed for business, and everything's off limits. Why are these good and those not? The smichlish is a rab. We're speaking that he set up his pot near the street. He's not open for business, but he's setting up his pots in the meantime near the street. Rashi says sometimes they would, put up some, barriers or pegs near the walls alongside the street to prevent the crowd from bumping into the crowd and the wagons from scraping and brushing against the walls. So that in that area, the street is sort of a bit narrow. It creates a sort of a crush there. So the crowd sort of spills over and brush into the things that are sitting on the side. And this fellow has his pot situated there. So we're concerned that the Amaretz may have brushed over those pots and made them tummy. So the outer ones have that concern, but the ones that are closer to the wall, out of reach, are okay. Okay, so we sort of addressed that case, and we brought over the idea of Kleyom Nusa B'Yada to our sugya. Sometimes a person presents as open for business, Kleyom Nusa B'Yada, and that explains why the Rabbanan did not trust this wheeler dealer who's claiming to be out of business. My stuff is, not yet ready to be sold. I'm just storing it. My friends, it's good. Well, then why are you bringing your register along with you? That lends us to suspect that the whole thing is just a deal, and a scheme. Here comes another possible teretz. We had a kasha. In the Brisa, Rabbi Yehuda says, we do not believe this fellow, when he speaks about his friend being a kohen, we don't give him truma. In the story of the chamar and the donkey drivers, we do believe him when he claims that his friend's product is kosher. How do we explain the stira? Rabbi Yehuda Rabbanan b'malan mitruma liyuchsan kamiflaki. Typically, Rabbi Yehuda is okay with believing people. We're not concerned about goimlin, about deals. The reason why he does not allow a person to eat truma based on the testimony of a single aid is as follows. Because according to Rabbi Yehuda, when a person is seen, a person is observed eating truma, that leads us to believe that he's a full-fledged kohen. So when you see a person eating truma, you can take that information and bring it over to our bezdin and tell them, look, that fellow is a cheskas kohen. He can marry a isha miyucheses, and therefore, says Rabbi Yehuda, for yichus we need more than just one aid. If we're going to allow him to eat truma, that's going to lead him to be upgraded regarding yichus as well. That we can't allow to happen based on one aid. So that's the point of machlekes between Rabbi Yehuda, who says don't feed him truma in this case because it can lead to yichsin, whereas the Rabbanan say no concern. You know why? They hold ein malan mitruma yichsin. Just because you see a person eating truma, it's not going to lead to the next level. You can't go and testify that he's a kohen. You can say you saw him eating truma. That's it. But truma is not synonymous with everything else that a kohen may have. And therefore, you can have an eid echad be trusted to feed a person truma because it's not going to lead to further. Here comes an interesting shayla. So we have machlokes whether truma is a raya to more. Now what about a shtar? Could that lead to more? Suppose a person is considered a kohen in a shtar. That's sufficient evidence as to his kahuna status for yichus as well or not. Hey Chidami, what's the case? We're speaking about the signature, the aid himself. Pliny kohen signed as an aid. Does that give him the license for yichus as well, to be considered a kohen regarding yichus? Well, why would it? There's nobody testifying about him. It's his own statement. Man kamasi diloyed. There's no who's testifying as per his status. It's his personal statement. That wouldn't lead to anything. There's no ne'emonos there. Apparently we're speaking the ksibe ani pleni kohen lovisi mana pleni. This alleged kohen is a party involved in the transaction. It says there, look, Ruvain the kohen borrowed $1 million from Shimon. So he's calling himself a kohen. And below that text, we have two edim. So now here comes a question, interesting question. How would you treat this? You have two edim on the bottom. What are they coming to support? What are they coming to back up? The incident, the story, that one fellow borrowed a money from another fellow. That's it. So it's not really backing up his claim of kahuna. Or akula milsaka masadi. When the Edom sign on the bottom of the star, it's everything included in the star. The fact that he borrowed money, the fact that it's ruined, the fact that he's a kohen. Rav Huna or Rav Chisda, machlokes between these two. Whether the fact that he's mentioned as a kohen and a star means anything. Chada or Malin, one maintains that, yeah, it allows him to be upgraded. We give him full-fledged kahuna status based on him being mentioned as a kohen and a star. V'chada amar ein Malin, the other one maintains no. Just because you're calling yourself a kohen and a star doesn't mean anything. Here comes another interesting shayla. Suppose this fellow does birchas koyanim in shul. Does that mean anything as per her status, as per yichus? This question can be posed: whether you hold that truma can lead to yichus, and it can be posed according to the other shita as well. Ein malam, that truma does not necessarily lead to giving you a pass for yichus. What do you mean? This question whether nesias kapayim can be used as a license, as a pass for yichus, that can be presented according to the shita that holds that truma is a raya for furthermore, for yichus. Because we can say, well, truma, yes, but not nesias kapayim. There's room to be mechalek. Hanimili truma, perhaps by truma you say, well, if he eats truma, that's the biggest raya that he's real kohen. The oven misahi, because a zor, a non-kohen who eats truma gets misa. He wouldn't do that if he wasn't a kohen. That's a raya. Avol nesias kapayim, the Isra say, lie. But the mere fact that he gets up in shul and he does nesias kapayim, birchas kohenim, at most, if he's not a kohen, he's just being over Isra Asay. Which Asay? Rashi says, you, the kohanim, should give the blessing, and not the non-kohanim. So it's a lav, but it's extracted from an Asay. You do it and not them, so it has a status of an Asay. So just because this fellow gets up and does it, he's being over an Asay. It isn't necessarily a raya that he's a real kohen. So lie, maybe it's not a raya. Dilma, perhaps. Loishna, there's no difference. Just as truma is a raya to kahuna, so is nesias kapayim. That's one way to look at it. The same question, whether nesias kapayim is a raya to more, can be presented according to the shita that ein mal, and that truma is not a raya for more. Hanimile truma de masachle betzina, because truma, which is eaten privately, eaten in the privacy of your home, so perhaps it's not necessarily a raya that he's a real kohen. Avol nesias kapayim de b'farhesia, but nesias kapayim which takes place in public, ilav kohenu, if not for the fact that he's a legitimate kohen, kuli ayloi machzef inin afshei, a person wouldn't be so brazen to get up in shul and present himself as a kohen. So that's a real raya that he's a genuine kohen. Idil malish, no, perhaps there's no difference. Just like truma can't prove more than that. Likewise, nesias kapayim cannot prove that he's a kohen. So which way is it? Well, machlokes amoraim between Rav Chisda and Rabbi Avinu. Chada or Malin, one claims that nesias kapayim is a raya that he's a real kohen. The other one disagrees. It's not a raya. Same question. If you notice that a fellow is doing birchas kohenim in the shul, is that a raya that he's a full-fledged kohen? He says, it's a machlokes. So you follow up with the next question. Well, how do we pass? What is the halacha? He says, let me present you with a brisa from which you can derive your verdict. I know of it a brisa as follows. The Sun Jun, you know how great chazaka is. Even Bezdin cannot cancel an established track record. Shenemar, as we find in the following story. So this was at the beginning of Bayis Sheni, when the Kehanim came up from Golus, and as we know, many had married non-Jews, and they had to go and assert their lineage. They had to bring their sefer yuchsin, their documents to prove their lineage. So the pasuk says like this: Ubebnei Kehanim, These were the Kehanim families. B'nei Chavaya, B'nei HaKoitz, B'nei Barzilai, all these families. Asher Lokach Manois Barzilai Giladi, Isha, V'ikra Shemam, they were called B'nei Barzilai because their forefather married from the daughters of Barzilai. Okay, so what happened? Eilem Bikshuk Savam HaMesyachsim V'lenim Tzo. So they sought to produce some documents for their yichus V'lenim Tzo. They could not produce. They couldn't find any backup for their lineage. Vayigoyalu min hakahuna. Rashi says Vayigoyalu means nifsu. They were rejected from kahuna. You can't prove it, you're out. Vayomer hatir shasa. That was another name for Nehemiah. So he turned to them. Vayomer hatir shasa lahem. He says, look, I can't help you. Sorry, I cannot consider you kohanim unless you assert your lineage. Asher lo yoichlu mikodesh hakadoshim. You cannot partake in the korbanos. Truma, yes. You were eating truma until now. Continue eating truma. But the korbanos and the mikdash, I can't allow you to have until Mashiach comes and verifies your status. Ad amoid kohen l'urim v'tumim, until the kohen will get up again and wear the urim v'tumim. Rashi says it's just an expression of until Mashiach comes, when the urim v'tumim will come back. Because we know that during the second Beis HaMikdash there was no urim v'tumim. That was just an expression. For the time being, you're in limbo until Mashiach comes, will verify it. Amar lahem, but he told them, look, Hari atam b'chaskaschem, retain your status. I'm not changing your status. Gedoyle chazak, what you have, you keep. But me'al yisam oichlam b'goyle, out in Golas, you were treated as kohanim, right? What were you eating? In what were you partaking? B'kachei agvul. Rashi says this is called truma, which is applicable out in the boundaries, meaning even outside Migdash and Yerushalayim. You were having truma, keep on eating truma. Afkan b'kachei agvul, here as well in Eretz Yisrael, you can access truma. Okay, that was the story. So what was the raya from this brisa? Again, let's back up. The question was whether when a person presents himself as a kohen as per Nesias Kapayim in the shul, is that a confirmation of his status or not? If you're going to tell me that when a person presents himself as a kohen as per Nesias Kapayim, that gives him a pass, that confirms his yichus. So these families, they continued eating truma, they continued being Nesias Kapayim. Hani, these families, given the Parsi Yadai, once they spread their hands in Nesias Kapayim, it's going to lead to giving them an upgrade. Asulasakinu, lasukinu. People are going to treat them as kohanim. So the fact that he was concerned about that and still allowed them to be Nesias Kapayim, that's the presumption. They could eat truma, they continue doing whatever they were doing before, would seem to indicate that Nesias Kapayim does not allow you to get upgraded. Is that a raya? No. Perhaps typically Nesias Kapayim would give you an open road, give you a pass to be upgraded. It would be a confirmation of your yichus. But over here there was no concern of that happening. Shani Hach, here it's different. The Riyach Haskai, because their chazaka was shaken up and challenged. Everybody sees, look, these Kehanim are singled out. They're only doing this, only that, but not what everybody else is doing. So everybody sees clearly, it's a hecker, there's a true indication that they're in their own, class. And nobody will mistake them for real Kehanim. But typically, if a person is doing Nesias Kapayim, under normal circumstances, perhaps, that would allow us to consider him a proper Kohen. Because otherwise, if you don't agree with this rationale, what about the other shita mentioned before? That truma leads to yichus. You agree with me that they can do truma? So once they have truma, that's going to lead to further. That's going to upgrade them, make them regular kehanim. Why isn't that a concern? The same answer. Elav, you must say mishum the riyach haskayu, because their chazaka was challenged. Everybody sees they're different. So in this case, it's not going to lead to further. Asks the Gemara, okay, so we have no raya, we tried to bring a raya, we weren't successful. Well, let's just delve into the brisa. Raisa begins with the term Gedoyle Chazaka. Look how great Chazaka is. Even though there was so much question regarding their status, Bezdin cannot undo. You had something, you had a privilege, you had a right, hold on to it. Vela Magdele Chazaka. Why is it so profound, this idea of Chazaka? Meaning, there's no reason to take away the Truma. Answers the Gemara, there is. Because Meikara Achal B'Truma D'Rabbanan. Initially, in Chutz La'aretz, Truma there is only with the Rabbanan. That's what they were having. Hashta Achal B'Truma D'Oraisa, but now they underwent a great change. They came to Eretz Yisrael and they were having Truma D'Oraisa. That's a chiddush, to allow them to maintain access to Truma, even Truma D'Oraisa. That's only because Doyle Chazak. You say another teretz. Hashta Nami B'Truma D'Rabbanan Achal. Even now, we only gave them Truma D'Rabbanan, but not more than that, because their status was questionable. How do we have Truma D'Rabbanan in Eretz Yisrael? Oh, so Rashi answers, we're speaking about fruit, vegetables, these are only the Rabbanan. As opposed to grain, olives and grapes, those are D'Oraisa. So even today, we only gave them Truma D'Rabbanan, but Truma D'Rabbanan Achal, but Truma D'Oraisa Lo Yachal, but not things that are D'Oraisa. And therefore Rashi explains, since they never even have Truma D'Oraisa, so even if you hold that Truma is an indicator of your status, right? If you hold like the Shita that the Malin the Truma L'Yechsen, but here it wasn't relevant because they weren't really having real Truma. And when do we say that Truma can lead to Yichus? With Truma D'Oraisa, when you're eating Truma D'Oraisa, that's an indication of status. With Truma D'Rabbanan, loy maskinan. But if you're only eating Truma D'Rabbanan, it's not going to lead to treating you as a real kohen. Asks the Gemara, if that's the case, then the kasha is even stronger than before. Before we figured, okay, we give them Truma. So what's the big deal? Well, Truma D'Oraisa, that's a big deal. But now we're downgrading it. We're saying, in the second teretz, we're saying, well, we didn't even give them Truma D'Oraisa. It was merely Truma D'Rabbanan. Right? And therefore, the whole kasha that we had, we proved this point, because otherwise, how could, if you hold that Truma can lead to Yichus, why wasn't that a concern? Right? So we answered, no. We never really gave them Truma to begin with. It was only Truma D'Rabbanan. So then back to the other question, what's Doyle Chazaka? What's the big deal? Answer is, because it can lead to Truma D'Oraisa. The Avik Avdika L'Migzah B'Shum Truma D'Oraisa Lo Gazrinan. You see, in Bavel, they had no access to Truma D'Oraisa. It's a big deal. Let them eat Truma D'Rabbanan. That much we'll let them do. But in Eretz Yisrael, it can lead to Truma D'Oraisa. The fact that we allowed them access to Truma D'Rabbanan, that was Doyle Chazaka. We're not concerned that it can lead to Truma D'Oraisa. The Avik of the Ikal Migzah B'Shum Truma D'Oraisa Lo Gazrinan. Asks the Gemara, is that true? Factually true? But Truma D'Oraisa Lo Yochel, they didn't have Truma D'Oraisa V'Ksiv. The pasuk says Asher Lo Yochel Mikadosh HaKadoshim. They didn't have karbanis, which sounds like otherwise everything else they had. Even Truma D'Oraisa Mikadosh HaKadoshim with Lo Yochel. That they didn't eat. But Truma D'Oraisa Achel, but Truma D'Oraisa they had. Hachikamar, no, it means like this. They didn't have Kodesh or Kadoshim, referring to two different things. They didn't have access to something which is called Kodesh. What is that? That's karbanis. Sorry, that's Truma. A non-Kohen shouldn't have access to Kodesh. That's Truma. The Psukim there speaking about Truma. So that's one thing they didn't have. Kodesh is Truma D'Oraisa. And Kadashim is a reference to Karbanis. Nor did they have access to Karbanis. Where do we find the word Kadashim synonymous with Karbanis? Ubas Kohen, Kisel Ishzar. This is a woman from a Kohen family who married a non-Kohen. He with Trumas HaKadashim like Seichel. She can't have things separated from the karbanis. But Ramar was speaking about a carbon-related item. Something separated from karbanis, that she can't have. So we see the Lashon Kadashim in reference to karbanis, and they didn't have access to that as well. Okay, let's do a brief recap of today's daf. We started with the kasha. Why do we have 4 cases of pesha asar, pesha hitter? We gave a reason for each one. Are we concerned about wheeling and dealing amongst colleagues? We have a brisa where Rabbi Yehuda seems to say we are concerned. In the Mishnah with the Demai, he is not concerned. We have a stira. The answer is Demai is more kal. What about the fact that the Rabbanon seem to contradict themselves? In the brisa, they're not concerned about deals. In the Mishnah with the grain, they are concerned. Answers the Gemara was speaking about there's some indication that this fellow is just pulling a deal. You see, he's ready for sale, and he's not. He's purporting that he's just passing through. He's not really open for business. So his actions are contrary to his words, and that leads us to suspect his ne'emanus. We had another pshat to explain Rabbi Yehuda. Typically, Rabbi Yehuda says we're not concerned about deals. We believe him with what he says, but when it comes to the kohen being fed truma, this purported kohen being fed truma, we're concerned. We don't want 1A to be believed because it might lead us to upgrade his status regarding yichus as well. For that, we need absolute confirmation through 2A. That leads us to the next discussion: whether eating truma is an indication of yichus, whether being called kohen in ishtar is a true indication of status, and likewise whether nesias kapayim will lead to yichus. We had a machlekes, amoraim, and perhaps Tanaim, in all three cases. All the best to you and much hatzlacha.